Welcome back. Now that our authentication functionality seems to work, let's look at database. So there we have two options, right? So when in the database, you can either use FireStore or you can use the real-time database. And I talked about it very briefly before, but what we are just going to use the Cloud FireStore because it's more powerful queries, automatic scaling. So it's just a better choice for us, right? So let's go ahead and create that. We are going to use the test mode because we want to be able to test everything, right? Anyone with your database reference will be able to read write to your database for 30 days. So this is a high risk approach, of course. Anything could, or many things could go wrong, but in our case, because we want to test it, it's going to make our life a lot easier, especially at the beginning. So once you're in production, you should definitely change your rules there. Then you have to select your Cloud FireStore location, so where the data should be located. So you have, of course, multiple different options here. I'm just going to use Europe West because I am in Europe, and then I'm going to press done. If you have an application where your user base will be mainly in another country or in one specific country, then you definitely have to consider that you put your location, Cloud FireStore location, specifically at that location. Okay. All right. Once that is done, you will find yourself seeing this screen where you have data, rules, indexes, and usage. And by the way, in rules, that's the thing that has been changed for us. So here read write is activated so that we can write around and play around with it. You can see here read write and then request timestamp date 2020, the 22nd of March, then it will change. Okay, so for now it's read write are both allowed, but later on it will change it. And you can change those rules anytime. If you want to know more about the rules, check out the documents here. Okay, but for now it's just going to be fine for us. We can just go ahead to the data tab, and here we can now create our own collections. For example, we can go ahead and create a collection called users. So let's go ahead and create this collection called users. And now you can go ahead and create a document ID. For example, you can go ahead and create an auto ID. You can add all of the different fields that you want to have. For example, for user, what we have is the name, the email address, and then we could have something like an image or whatever you can come up with, right? But the thing is, you don't even need to do that here. So we can, of course, create a collection and create everything just here in this beautiful UI. But we are going to do that in code. So you will see how to create collections and those objects, so to speak, in code. Because we will create a class, a users class, which will then contain all of the information that we want to store about a user. All right, at that point, we can go back to our project and we will need to add a new implementation here, or a new dependency to our project. So let's add that. It's the FireStore implementation here. Let me add that. You can see Firebase FireStore 2140. So it's similar to what we had before when we had Firebase Auth, and you can see the versions, they differ a little bit. So now we're using FireStore. Later on we will use storage, then we will need to add another dependency, but for now this is gonna do. So don't forget to sync it, of course. And once the syncing is done, you can start syncing. All right, now you can start using FireStore. All right, and the next thing is that we are going to create a new class. So the thing is, I thought about different ways to approach this application, and doing it in, well, doing the code that you need in the classes where you need them creates a lot of duplication, and I thought it would be a lot nicer to have a very clean structure that you can easily reuse and then also easily adjust and maintain. So let's say at one point Firebase doesn't work anymore. So you don't want to go to every single class and make changes to every single part of the application, but you want to have one class which handles the whole database stuff. So in case Firebase doesn't work anymore and you need to change to another solution in the future, for whatever reason, Firebase doesn't exist anymore, they go bankrupt, even though it's highly unlikely that Google will ever go bankrupt. But I mean, like, generally, if you use a solution which could potentially go obsolete at one point, then it's always good to have the code already be prepared for this. And that's what we're going to do. So we are going to create an extra class which will take care of the whole database stuff or of the whole FireStore stuff, and that will make our life a lot easier if we ever have to change anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new directory here. So a new package, and this one will be Firebase. And inside of Firebase, I want to have this new class, which I'm gonna call FireStore class. Very awesome name. So file class FireStore, or maybe it's just FireStore class. All right, and in here I want to put all of the different Firebase FireStore dependent or relevant code. So first of all, I will need to have an instance of the Firebase FireStore. All right, so private val m FireStore, so I'm gonna call it, and it will be Firebase FireStore dot get instance. So let's get the instance directly. Firebase FireStore needs to be written correctly, then it will also allow me to use it. Okay, so you can see we have this new import here, Firebase FireStore, and then we get the instance. So let me see why it's still complaining, because it added this store. Okay, so now we have our Firebase FireStore instance, and now we can go ahead and create a new user, so we can register a user in our database. So the idea is that we don't only register the user directly in the authentication module, but also in our database. So not only here in authentication, where we have the user, we have his identifier, then we have when he was created and the user ID, but we also want to store a little more information about the user. So each time a user registers, we also want to have him in the database so that we can then add information about his, let's say, telephone number if you want that, or if you want to add an image of him, or he wants to add an image of him, then we want to be able to do that, okay? And that's why we need to have an entry for every user in our database. So let's create a little function which will do just that. So fun register user, which will need an activity, and I'm gonna pass in the sign up activity, and then user info, which will be of type user. So we will need to create a class which allows us to do a lot of stuff, right? So let's go ahead. Do we have the users already? No, we don't have it. So we need to create a new model called user. So let's go ahead and create it real quick. New Kotlin class, and this one will be user. Now this is going to be a data class. All right, data class user, and we want to have a bunch of information about the user here. So when we use a data class, we just need those kind of brackets, so not the curly ones, just the rounded ones. So I want to store the ID of the user. So let's do that. Then I want to store the name of the user. Then what else would be interesting? Well, the email would be nice. So let's add the email as well. Email of the user. Then what else? Well, image. How about an image? So I'm going to store the image as a string as well, because I'm just going to store the image location on the database. So it's not really the database, but it's actually the storage functionality of Firebase. So you can see we have an extra by a point here, which is called storage. So you can store images or even videos on the storage. All right. So we will have the image, then maybe also the mobile number of the user. So mobile, which will be a long, which I'm just gonna set to 0 for now. And then the FCM token. So we will also need to have a token of the user so that we know that it's this specific user that is logged in. Next, I would like to make this class parcelable. And in order to do so, I can of course write all of the code manually, or I can just go to settings and then add a new plugin. So here on the plugins, let's search for parcelable. And you will find this Android parcelable code generator. That's the one that I want. And for it to work, you need to restart the IDE. All right, at that point, it should work. So let's make it parcelable. Parcelable with a capital P, of course. So parcelable. And now implement the members. And also add the parcelable implementation. So you can see it will create all of this stuff here: constructor, parcel, read string, write to parcel, describe, then also this companion object creator. So this is automatically generated now by the help of the plugin that we just installed. Now at this point, it's complaining because parcel or read string is going to return a nullable, so we need to add all of those exclamation marks. But once we've done that, you can see the class is ready so far. Now when we want to describe contents, what we're going to do is we're just going to assign 0 to it, and to write parcel here we're just going to add a bunch of write strings. So write string, the ID, and by the way, I'm just going to make parcel a non-nullable. And also I need to add this statement here with dest, and now write string is going to work. So we need to do write string for all of the different values that we have. So here it's going to be write long for the number, for the phone number, right? So let's add mobile here. This one was the ID, then we had the name, we had the email, and we had the image, and then finally we had the FCM token. Okay, so when we write it to a parcel, what we're going to do is we write all of our variables that we have here. Okay, so at this point, this class is going to be ready and we can go on. Because the video is already going to be so long, because we need to still add quite some stuff in the FireStore class, or we need to create a FireStore class and so forth, I would say let's make a quick break here and then finish this part of the exercise or part of the code in the next video, where we're going to finally be able to add data to our database in the FireStore database. So see you there.